Earlier today, Tony Khan was on Busted Open Radio. He's got his weekly spot on there, so he comes on every week. And he promised that tonight's episode of Dynamite was going to be the most eventful go-home episode that he has ever been a part of. Because, you know, Tony likes to hype these things up and really kind of tease people and say, oh, this is going to be, you know, a show to remember. This is going to be one of our best shows ever. I will say this first. I thought this was an excellent episode of Dynamite tonight. Every match on this card tonight that was not a squash match, I thought delivered. We had an incredible main event, trios match in the trios tournament. We had a match that was better than I expected it to be with Bryan Danielson and Jake Hager. We had a women's tag team match with all four women that are in the interim championship match at All Out on Sunday. I thought the women's match was very good as well. We had a four-way involving some of the men that are in the casino ladder match on Sunday. So when you really look at the matches that we got on this card tonight, excellent episode of Dynamite, better than last week. As far as a go-home show, because that's what Tony Khan mentioned, that this was going to be a very eventful go-home show tonight. As go-home shows go, to get people, I think, amped up for the pay-per-view on Sunday, I don't think overall they did a very good job. I think they did a very good job as far as trying to get people into the idea of a Jon Moxley CM Punk rematch, which seemed pretty obvious coming out of the show last week, that we were going to get Punk and Moxley one more time in Chicago at All Out. That is the angle that they were going for. And in fact, they did make it official tonight. Jon Moxley and CM Punk will wrestle again this Sunday at All Out in Chicago. That, in and of itself, was not a surprise. They're in Chicago. They wanted to sell people in Chicago on that match. To that end, I guess you could say that it was effective. Especially the people in the building, right? They really reacted big to it. But when I look at this all-out card, there's a lot of matches on this pay-per-view on Sunday. AEW tends to load up these cards with a lot of matches. So when you include the pre-show matches and the main card, we have a lot of matches coming up this weekend. There are a lot of matches on this card. I think of the tag team title match. We didn't see any of those guys on the show tonight. There's a TBS championship match. There's, you know, a lot of other matches on the card. I think the build for a lot of these matches has been very thin. And that when I say that this was not the strongest go-home show to get people, I'll speak for myself, to get me interested in a lot of these individual matches, I don't think it did the best job of that. Now, there are certain matches I'm looking forward to just personally more than others. And I think the main event is one of those matches. I think Punk and Moxley, now given the chance to go out there for 20 plus minutes, are going to go out there and have a kick-ass match. As is the case usually with AEW in these shows, I don't have any doubts that All Out on Sunday is going to be an incredible show. When that pay-per-view is over at midnight or whenever it ends on Sunday, we're going to look at it and go, holy shit, that was a great show. I don't doubt that at all. You look at the talent that are up and down that card, they're going to go out there, they're going to tear it up, they're going to kick ass, and when this show is over, it may go down as one of the best shows all year. But there's also a very thin build to a lot of these matches. Many of the matches feel very thrown together. Some of them have been built up better than others, but I would not say that this was one of the best builds to an AEW pay-per-view. Not even close. We didn't even have a main event until tonight. Speaking of that main event, Jon Moxley was advertised for a promo segment. He was going to come out and talk. And so you knew that we were going to get some kind of announcement about who his opponent was going to be. On the stream last week, I kind of was talking about the idea, floated the idea that maybe he'll just come out and say, look, I'm going to be in Chicago. I'm going to have an open contract. Anybody who wants to step up, I'll be more than happy to defend my title. And that's kind of the angle they did. They didn't wait until Sunday. But that's kind of what they did tonight. Moxley had his time to talk. CM Punk came out, and he had his time to talk. And we talked last week, what are they going to do? Coming out of the championship match, they gave us the first match last Wednesday. 3 minutes long, Moxley squashed CM Punk. 1 week ago, I sat here and talked about the fact that Jon Moxley beat CM Punk in 3 minutes. And they gave away the first match on live TV. On free TV, instead of doing it at the pay-per-view, and I was not a big fan of that. But Tony Khan had a plan in mind, This is all part of a larger angle. Let's see how it plays out. Well, now that I see what they did, and now that I see how they set the rematch up, I can honestly sit here and tell you here with the benefit of hindsight, I don't feel any differently than I did when that show was over last Wednesday. I feel exactly the way that I felt then. They took the long way of getting there, but it was kind of convoluted what they did. They didn't need to do that. They could have gotten to the same place without giving the match away for the first time on television. Now, in the end, it's not going to be a big deal. It's not like they're going to go out there on Sunday and people are going to boo. They're going to boo them out of the building like they did Goldberg and Brock at WrestleMania all those years ago in Madison Square Garden. Plus, they're in Chicago, so of course, they're going to cheer for CM Punk. But you didn't need to do what you did last week. You could have gotten to the same point and had the two of them have an incredible back and forth promo on television. You could have had CM Punk go out there and say a lot of the things that he said tonight on the show. He was Mr. Chicago. They should make him the official mascot for the fucking state. This was a regional promo. He was putting over Chicago. He was talking about Chicago and how we in Chicago and this is how we are and blah, 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 blah. And I'm just thinking, okay, so now I'm able to see why they did what they did last week. And to me, it still doesn't justify doing what they did. So that's my take now 1 week later on how I view what they did last week. I didn't think it was something that they had to do. Evidently, Tony Khan felt that this was the right way to go about doing things. We'll find out, I guess, when the buy rate comes in. And we'll see how many people actually bought this show. Probably, not even probably. I will tell you right now, this pay-per-view will not do the same number of buys that last year's show did. Remember where we were a year ago? All the hype around the big returns. Punk had just come back. This was Punk's first match in 7 years. And we already knew that they were teasing debuts of other people. We ended up getting Bryan Danielson and Adam Cole. It was a very different time a year ago. People were very interested to see who might show up. They don't have that same level of buzz around them right now. So we'll see how this show does. But the main event I mentioned, just an absolutely insane trios match. The crowd was molten every time Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay were in the ring together. Run it back. That's all I can say. This time, run it back as a singles match. I'm sure that's what they're planning to do. Run it back at the Tokyo Dome, one-on-one Wrestle Kingdom. It has to happen. It has to happen. Look, I would love Arthur Ashe in Queens next month. I'm going to be there. I would love for them to do the match in Queens on Dynamite at the Grand Slam show next month. I get the sense that New Japan is going to want to get that match. I think New Japan wants it. If I'm New Japan, I want it. I've already given you Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay a little tease of it on television. New Japan's going to want something for this. I think they're going to want that match at the Tokyo Dome. But we got a little taste of it tonight, and it was fantastic. This is your AEW Dynamite review. It is Wednesday. It is August 31st, 2022. I am the Solomonster. This is the final Dynamite review for the month of August, which means that summer is almost over. Only a few more weeks. Hit that subscribe button. Super chats are open. I will be reading all of your messages. I know we had a bunch of them already. And the goal for tonight is 500 likes. At least 500 likes on this video during the live stream. We'll do Be the Booker a little bit later on. So that is the goal for tonight. Brian Pacera coming in early with Bully the Clown. Clowns are out. The circus is in town, everybody. We're just getting started here. We got the bearded lady over in the corner. We got the other guys who are jumping through these rings of fire over there. We got the lions, we got the tigers, we got the bears, and we got the clowns. Thank you, Brian. If you missed it earlier today, this is my second stream of the day. I opened this one up to everybody, but we kept the chat members only, but we did a watch-along for the main event of SummerSlam 92, Bret Hart and the British Bulldog. One of the greatest matches in WWE history. Today was 30 years to the day that pay-per-view aired on pay-per-view here in the U.S. So I thought, what better time to go back and watch Bret Hart and the Bulldog? So we hung out for an hour, had a lot of fun doing it. It is archived. It is accessible to everybody, including non-members. So you can go check that out on the channel if you were not able to join me earlier today, if you were working, if you were in school, although who the hell is in school on August 31st, right? Is anybody here in school on August 30th? Our class is back in session. It's been a while. I've been out of school for a while, so I don't remember. For me, I mean, classes always started, I think, that first week in September. But maybe some of you were in summer school. Maybe some of you have been, unfortunately, not doing the right thing. You had to go to summer school. Whatever your situation is, it's up there if you want to check it out. So let's, a couple of news and notes before we even get into the Dynamite review. Eddie Kingston, who was not on the show tonight, although he was mentioned because he does have a match this Sunday. Eddie Kingston returned officially today from his AEW suspension. He was suspended for 2 weeks. So today was his first official day back. PW Insider was told by multiple sources that Kingston and Sammy Guevara, they sought each other out backstage so they could throw down and beat the fuck out of each other. No, I'm kidding. They sought each other out so they could squash their beef. So they can meet face to face. They could iron things out and apologize to each other for what happened a few weeks ago. At the end of their discussion, the two of them shook hands. They agreed that their issues were in the past, and everybody was going to move on. Onward and upward. Eddie Kingston is now wrestling Tomohiro Ishii on the pre-show on Sunday. And Sammy Guevara, unless he ends up being the Joker in the ladder match, which I can't imagine he'll be the Joker in the ladder match, he has no match at all. Now look, I know it's the pre-show, but even still, it's a little odd that the man who instigated the incident in the first place and got suspended, he has a match on Sunday, and Sammy Guevara does not. It seems a little backwards to me, but nonetheless, the issue is squashed between the two of them, and all is good. And per Fightful Select, the belief is that AEW Full Gear, which will be the next pay-per-view after All Out this weekend, is going to be taking place in Newark, New Jersey this November. It looks like that is going to be the location for Full Gear. No specific date was given, nor a venue, although when they've run Newark in the past, they usually run the Prudential Center. Newark is where they were supposed to do the first Blood and Guts match a couple of years ago. They were only a few weeks, I think 2 weeks away. And then COVID hit, shut everything down. And eventually they came to Newark, but they ended up doing the first Blood and Guts match at Daly's place, so they never did get that match. But they had 14,000 tickets sold for that first show in Newark before COVID shut everything down. So, yeah, it's like an NBA building, an NBA-sized building. But we'll wait on official word on that from AEW. But all you East Coast peeps, if you're thinking about going to Full Gear, it's going to be in New Jersey. So Jon Moxley, who squashed CM Punk last week and became the undisputed AEW World Champion. He was out first to open the show tonight. He wanted a live mic. So he made his entrance through the crowd, came to the ring. And once, a lot of people upset that Full Gear looks to be coming to New Jersey. Not a lot of New Jersey fans I see here in this chat. Well, too bad. I'm not the one who makes these decisions. So don't yell at me. I'm just the messenger. I just relay the news to you. You do with it what you wish. So Moxley's out there, and he got a chilly reception from the crowd here in Chicago because they were in the Now Arena. Dynamite tonight, Rampage on Friday. They're all in the same building that All Out is in on Sunday. So they're running all three events in the same venue. So he got a very chilly reception from the crowd. Loud chants for CM Punk. And there were some chants for Moxley as well. And they cheered when he said that they were still mopping Punk off the mat in Cleveland. He said Punk used to be known as the 60-minute man on the indies. He said, I had 57 minutes left in me last week, Punk. Did you? Moxley said that Punk looked for a way out last week. He gave up. He gave up. And that's not what a real champion does. Real champions don't fold. It's like what Britt Baker was saying to Thunder Rosa last week. He said CM Punk, fragile ego, fragile body, weak mind, weak spirit. He said that in his pocket, he has an open contract for a match this Sunday at All Out. He said it's already signed by him, and he threw the contract down on the mat. He said that it could be anybody. Maybe it's somebody from New Japan. There were actually some boos in the crowd for that. I don't think they were booing New Japan so much as they were booing anybody other than CM Punk. So anyway, he mentioned New Japan. He said, hey, Rocky Romero, you got any guys left? I'm open to it. He said whoever it is, he can outfight them, he could out-wrestle them, and he got fired up, and he called himself the fire-breathing spirit of pro wrestling. He called himself the heart and soul of pro wrestling. Remember what Punk said to him a few weeks ago? You could be the heart and soul, I'm the dollars and cents. He said wrestling Jon Moxley may be hazardous to your health. Whoever it is, you have been warned. I thought this was a great promo. This was Moxley in his element. It's his strong suit. He always dials it up when it comes to these go-home promos before a big match, so I thought Moxley was great here. He left the contract in the ring, and he left. He went back out through the crowd the way that he came in. So they cut back to Jim Ross, Excalibur, and Taz, who were doing a stand-up. Usually they're sitting down. This time they did a stand-up, which I thought looked better, by the announce desk with their backs turned to the arena. And they were, starting to run down the card. Jim Ross said that this Sunday at All In is going to be a big night. I can't wait for All In this Sunday. I don't know about you guys. You guys can watch All Out. I'm watching All In. So as they're running down the card, the camera cuts back to the aisle, and we see Ace Steel walking down to the ring. He works for AEW behind the scenes. He also happens to be the man who trained CM Punk and one of CM Punk's best friends. We saw him last week when Punk was helped to the back on his injured foot. Ace Steel was the one who was right there to help him to the back. So Ace Steel walks down to the ring. He gets inside. He climbs into the ring, and he picks up the open contract that Jon Moxley left behind, puts it in his pocket, and heads to the back. And that was the end of the segment. Now, I said the Moxley portion of this I thought was very good. I thought Moxley did a great job on the promo. The way they did the open contract stuff I thought was incredibly stupid. This I hated. I thought this was very, very dumb. And I'll tell you why I thought this was very dumb. It's what I said earlier on Twitter. If you have Jon Moxley, who is the undisputed AEW World Champion, he's coming out to the ring and he openly says, look, I have no match on Sunday at All Out. I have an open contract. My name is signed to this contract. I don't care who it is. I will wrestle anybody. I will defend my championship against anybody. And you have a roster that is very bloated, right? We know how big the AEW roster is and how little TV time some guys actually are able to get on these shows. And people have talked about it. Some of the talent have talked about it even in interviews, right? He leaves the contract laying on the mat and he leaves. Now, I know what people are going to say. They're going to say, well, Ace Steel didn't waste any time. I mean, he came out right away. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. Moxley talked about the open contract. He dropped it on the floor. He talked for a few more minutes. He left. They went back to the announcers. They talked for about a minute or two. And then Ace Steel came out. In that entire time, every person on that roster should have been tripping over each other to run out to the fucking ring to put their name on that contract. So just the logic in it is ridiculous. Not one person. The only person to come out to the ring is the retired wrestler who now works as a producer behind the scenes. Ace Steel is the only person to come out to the ring to retrieve the contract. I thought that was incredibly stupid. So I don't like the way that they did that. It became clear why later on because, again, this is not the last that we would see of Ace Steel here on this show. But it didn't seem to me like they put a whole lot of thought into this. Either that or they didn't care. Because I thought that aspect of it was ridiculous. Now, some people are going to be like, oh, it's not a big deal. Again, you're making too much of it. No, I'm not. I'm really not. And it's okay to criticize AEW when they do something stupid that kind of defies logic. Think about how stacked this roster is. Think of all the people who aren't even on the pay-per-view. Not one person comes out to put their name on that contract. Not one of them. They're all afraid to wrestle Jon Moxley. Give me a break. We go backstage. Chris Jericho is in the back. And he is with Tony Schiavone. And Jericho said to answer the questions that Bryan Danielson posed in their segment last week on TV. He asked him in the ring last week, what would Stu Hart say about who the better wrestler is between the two of them? What would Owen Hart, Jericho's hero, who he wanted to be tag team partners with when he was a young boy, what would Owen Hart say if he were here as far as who the better wrestler is, Chris Jericho or Bryan Danielson? Jericho said that both of them would be very impressed with him. As he was talking, Daniel Garcia walked up to Jericho, and he said that he was sorry for his immaturity and that he believed in Jericho. Jericho said that on Sunday it would be just him and Danielson, but until then, everything was fair game. That led into the next match, which was Bryan Danielson against Jake Hager. You see, I think Marcus in the chat, at least Marcus is trying to come up with what I think might be a reasonable explanation. He says they're all scared of Moxley. They're afraid he's going to bleed on them. Hey, you never know what kind of diseases people are walking around with these days. Maybe they are. Maybe they don't want to get hepatitis or tuberculosis. Who knows? They should get their shots. Before you get into the ring with Jon Moxley, they should all get their shots. Marcus, God bless you. You are trying to make sense of something that just doesn't make sense. So we had Danielson against Hager. Danielson hit a tope to the floor on Hager. Got up on the apron. He was going for a running knee strike off the ring apron. Hager caught him, though. Slammed him through the timekeeper's table. And Hager began to work over Danielson's back. He was slamming him into the ring post. He suplexed him on the floor. Danielson made a comeback with a missile drop kick off the top rope, and then he was laying in the yes kicks, and the crowd was going nuts for it. They were chanting yes. This was a very hot crowd tonight. It's a good sign for the pay-per-view on Sunday. But Chicago is, we know Chicago is one of the better wrestling markets that are out there. You think of New York, you think of Chicago, you think of Montreal, you think of Toronto, you think of the UK. It's one of the reasons why I'm looking forward to Clash at the Castle this Saturday. This is going to be a fun weekend. I should have said that from the top, that no matter what you thought of this show, and we can pick it apart in the good and the bad, we are heading into a weekend where we are going to be spoiled with a lot of great wrestling this weekend. And it starts on Saturday and it extends into Sunday, the NXT show, which I don't think I'm going to have a chance to review, but I'll be watching Worlds Collide. There's some great matches on that card. And All Out. Again, regardless of what I think of the way they've built the matches up, you look at this card when the show is over, it's going to be an amazing card. So we are being spoiled with some great pro wrestling this weekend. Mox Pox. Is that what we're calling it? You wrestle Jon Moxley, you end up with Mox Pox. I don't think the last thing we need is another pandemic, this time caused by Jon Moxley. It's not caused by a bat. It's not caused by any kind of animal to human transmission. It's a new pandemic caused by Jon Moxley because he was bleeding all over the place. Then we're all back on lockdown for the next 2 years. No, thank you. Hager countered a triangle choke with a powerbomb. Danielson and Hager exchanged submission attempts. Hager, though, made the ropes. And in the end, Danielson won with the running knee strike. This turned into a really good match, better than I expected it to be. So here comes Matt Menard and Angelo Parker. They run down to the ring. Wheeler Yuta, Claudio Castagnoli, not far behind. They run down to make the save. And they fight off 2.0. That left Danielson alone in the ring. And now Chris Jericho, who was on commentary for the match, gets up from his position. He takes the chair that he was sitting in. And he runs down to the ring. And Jericho gets into the ring and he's getting ready to hit Danielson with the chair. All of a sudden, here comes Daniel Garcia. And he jumps up on the apron, and as Jericho lifts the chair above his head, Garcia grabs it out of his hand, and Jericho turns around, and he's got this look of disbelief on his face. What are you doing? And when Jericho turns back around, Danielson lays him out with a running knee. And Garcia had a look on his face like he knew he fucked up. And as Danielson was leaving, he was smiling, he was laughing, he was kind of, patting Garcia on the back as he walked away. I said it last week. I wanted to see what they did on this show. If they really laid it on thick, like, Garcia can't be trusted. Maybe he's, it's all just a ruse. They didn't do that. And so I saw now, what they did on the show, and I stand by what I said last week. Garcia is totally going to fuck over Danielson on Sunday. I still believe that. Even though it would make more sense for him to be part of the Blackpool Combat Club, between that and the fact that we already know it's going to be Garcia challenging Wheeler Yuta. of the Blackpool Combat Club for the Ring of Honor Pure title on Dynamite next week. I am convinced that Garcia either knowingly, whether it be a swerve or accidentally, is going to somehow fuck over Danielson on Sunday. Back from the break, Excalibur said that they had a situation in the ring, and that situation turned out to be all the members of the Wingmen picketing, which is basically like the AEW version of the Job Squad, picketing the fact that it's another week and they're not booked for the show. They have their picket signs and they're all, marching around the ring. It's Ryan Nemeth, Peter Avalon, Cesar Bononi, and JD Drake. They are the Wingmen. So as they're complaining about whatever it is they're complaining about, out comes Big Cass. Here comes W. Morrissey from Impact Wrestling, although he's no longer with Impact Wrestling, formerly with Impact Wrestling. Actually, he's been gone from Impact now for a few months. And I had just assumed that he would be popping up soon on WWE or AEW. I was kind of surprised it didn't happen already, unless he had some kind of a non-compete. But my understanding is that his contract ran out, so I don't believe there would have been any kind of a non-compete. But here comes W. Morrissey. Here comes the big guy all the way down to the ring. He's in the ring with the Wingmen. He wipes out all four men, choke slams a whole bunch of them. As he's beating these guys up, here comes Stokely Hathaway. In the middle of this beatdown, he walks down to the ring. He's got his business card in hand, and he gets into the ring after Morrissey wipes everybody out, and he extends his business card to Morrissey. Morrissey looks at it, and he takes the business card, and he shakes his head. He nods his head like, okay, like he accepts his offer. And they leave the ring together. Tony Schiavone is in the aisleway, and he confronts Stokely to try to find out what all of this business is about. He's been handing cards out to everybody for weeks now. What's going on here? And Hathaway tells him it's none of his business, and Tony Schiavone isn't going to take that as an answer. He goes, well, as a matter of fact, we are on TV. We're doing a TV show here, and it is my business. And Stokely didn't like that. He grabbed Tony by his jacket, and Schiavone called him a jack-off. The crowd started chanting for Tony Schiavone. He was one of the biggest baby faces on the entire show. Morrissey should have beaten the piss out of him right there, but he didn't. He just glared at him, and Morrissey and Hathaway walked off. I am honestly shocked that WWE did not make a play for Morrissey. Maybe they did, and maybe he turned them down, or maybe they dragged their feet. But I was very surprised to see him turn up here and not in WWE. But maybe I shouldn't be. I know that his girlfriend is Lexi Nair. She works as the backstage interviewer for AEW. Maybe that had something to do with his decision to sign here and not with WWE. So I would be very curious to find out if an offer was made. And if not, I would be shocked because, he's cleaned himself up. He had a pretty good run in Impact, by all accounts. And he's got the size and the look that they love. I mean, he's a big guy who can actually work. We have somebody in WWE like Omos who can, do two fucking moves. The guy is useless in the ring. Morrissey can go. Morrissey can work. I think he would have fit in, perfectly on Monday Night Raw. So if they didn't make a play for him, I would wonder why. But he is officially now with AEW, and I think that's a good pickup for AEW. Now the question is, do we get to see him on TV? This is a bloated roster that barely has enough television time for the people they already have. So I think it's a good pickup for them, but now the onus is on Tony Khan to actually do something with him. And we still don't know what all of this, Stokely Hathaway stuff is leading to. He's been handing out business cards like candy on Halloween. Is he going to, what does his group even look like? Is he going to have a formal faction? Or Bobby Heenan, I think when he was doing the Heenan family, at one point had, I don't even know, he probably had like a dozen different members. Maybe he's going to run his own version of the Heenan family. He'll have 6 or 8 people working for him under contract. Morrissey will be one of them. So we'll have to see how that plays out with Hathaway. But as far as Morrissey goes, it all boils down to how they use him. Or do we get to see him on television once every 4 weeks and he mostly is relegated to Rampage or, Dark? We'll see how they use him. Backstage, Will Ospreay was approached by Don Callis, and he gave Osprey some backhanded, sarcastic compliments. reminded him that he was beaten by Kenny Omega the last time they had a tag team match together, but he says, I'm sure it'll be different this time. We had a women's tag team match. Yes, Yogi in the chat makes a good point. There's another big man on the roster who we don't get to see very often in AEW, and his name is Lance Archer. I feel like Lance Archer in AEW is pretty much, he is where he is. He's pretty much a lost cause at this point. But we'll see what they do at Morrissey. We had Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter taking on Toni Storm and Hikaru Shida. We found out last week that Thunder Rosa is injured, and she had to step away as the AEW Women's Champion. But they have not stripped her of the title. Instead, they're going to crown an interim champion Sunday at All Out. These are the 4 women in the Fatal 4-Way who are going to battle it out. There was an early spot in this match where Shida gave Hayter a standing Rana and just drilled Hayter. I can't even say head first, like face first, into the mat. And she looked a little shook up. It was an awkward landing, but she was okay. The announcers noted that Toni Storm just had surgery to remove her wisdom teeth a few days ago, so Britt Baker made her jaw a target. Appropriately, we had a dentist in this match. But I saw that photo she posted on her Instagram the other day, a few days ago. Her whole jaw was all wrapped up. So Baker went for an avalanche air raid crash off the middle rope, but Storm fought her off and hit a tornado DDT before tagging out to Shida. Shida hit a Meteora on Jamie Hayter, and the pin was broken up by Britt Baker. Shida hit a flying kick to Baker right as she was putting on her glove, the latex glove, to go for the lockjaw. And the way they shot this, it looked so fucking great because they had a tight shot of Britt Baker standing there putting the glove on, facing the crowd, and she didn't see Shida coming off the ropes with a kick. All we saw was Shida's foot coming into camera view, kicked her right in the fucking face. It was great. Came out of nowhere with that kick, and it connected great. So that was the way they did that. I thought was perfect. Toni Storm hit her corner hip attack on Britt Baker and then floated immediately. So she hits her in the corner with the hip attack and immediately floats through the ropes and hits a tornado DDT to Jamie Hayter, who was out on the floor. Great spot. In the ring, Shida hit a buzzsaw kick to Britt's head for the knockout blow, and she pinned her. This was a really good match. Really good stuff from these 4 women. Shida, in particular, I thought looked really good here. We haven't seen much of her on television. She is a former AEW Women's Champion. She's not winning on Sunday, so they gave her a chance to shine here in this match. But the fact that Britt Baker is the one who ate the pin scares me. Because I want to see Toni Storm walk out of there with that championship on Sunday. If not Toni Storm, I would settle for Jamie Hayter. Is Britt Baker going to not only do the job tonight, but then do the job again on Sunday at the pay-per-view? I find that a little hard to believe. So that scares me. But I thought this was very good stuff from these 4 ladies. We got a video package for Kip Sabian. He explained, of course, Kip Sabian was gone for over a year. I think he had shoulder surgery, it was. And they've had the guy in the crowd now for months and months and months, just sitting in the crowd with the cardboard box on his head with different messages sprawled across it. And it's been said that it's been Kip Sabian for months. So Sabian is out of the box. I said last week, Kip Sabian has been unboxed. And he cut this promo on Pac. He explained his master plan that he executed last week when he fooled Pac with that decoy in the crowd when he pulled the box off the guy's head. And it was some rando. And then Kip Sabian attacked Pac from behind. Pac said that he had pestered him for the last time. And they will have an All-Atlantic Championship match at All Out on Sunday. So that's another match now, added to the card. I think they had enough matches. I don't think this match needed to be added to the card, but it's been added to the card. At least it's on the pre-show. It's not on the main card. Miro cut a promo. Again, these were pre-recorded video promos here. Miro cut a promo about how he was going to destroy the House of Black. Darby Allin came into camera frame and said that Brody King and Buddy Matthews didn't need Malachi, but he needed them. And then Sting came into the shot, and he said that the enemy of our enemy is our friend. And that sets up the trios match for All Out, which seemed pretty predictable after House of Black got bounced from the trios tournament. They came back and we heard Cult of Personality. And of course we are in Chicago, so you knew that he was going to be on the show. CM Punk walked out to the ring and he walked out fine. For anybody wondering if he really did injure himself last week, as I said last week, no, he did not injure himself. He walked to the ring just fine, but he looked very sad. He looked like his puppy is lost and missing, and he just got done putting up missing posters all over the building for his dog. What's his dog's name? Larry? Larry ran away, and so now he's putting posters up all over the building. This guy's eyes were all red like he had been crying, or that he hadn't gotten any sleep. Then again, Punk always looks like that. Punk's had the bags under the eyes as far back as I can remember. This guy looks like he gets 2 hours of sleep every night. So he talked about breaking his foot and getting hurt back in June. It was June 1st. That was the first Dynamite in LA, their California debut, the first Dynamite after he beat Hangman Page to become the AEW World Champion. That's when he did the stage dive into the crowd and shattered his foot. And he mentioned that. And he mentioned the fact that he wrestled a match that night because he didn't know his foot was broken. He wrestled that match. It was him and FTR in a trios match. Remember, Punk went for the springboard and he slipped and he fell. The only time I've ever seen him slip and fall on that spot. Well, now we know why, because he had a broken foot. He said his doctor told him that after wrestling that match, the bones in his foot were pulverized. It was a very serious break. He talked about having 3 plates and 16 screws put into his foot. And then he stopped. And he walked over to the ropes and he looked out into the crowd and he pointed at somebody in the crowd. We couldn't see who it was. Pointed at some fan. And he said, real quick, that's 16 more times than this fat guy has ever gotten screwed in his entire life. And the crowd popped huge for that. See, you would think the fans would watch each other's backs, right? Somebody comes after them, right? These fans don't give a shit. Boy, these fans will turn on you in a second. This guy wasn't doing anything. What was he doing? Well, I'll tell you what the fan was doing. It sounded to me like he was trying to get a Colt Cabana chant started. Somebody was chanting for Colt Cabana. Whether it was this guy or not, I don't know for sure. I believe that's what he chanted, and that's what got Punk very upset. I'm just thinking, boy, this guy's awfully sensitive, isn't he? He didn't like that. So he went back to his promo and he said he got beat up in Cleveland last week, and it's not the first time that's happened, alluding to the UFC loss in Cleveland to Mickey Gall many years ago. He posed the question if his foot is 100%. He said yes, he was cleared by the doctors to get back in the ring and the x-rays all look good. And he said it's a new 100%. The way that you define 100% now for CM Punk is very different than it was before. And he's not sure if this new 100% is good enough. He's having a lot of self-doubt. He said he came back to wrestling last year because he loved it. He loved wrestling, but the business does not always love him back. He said that he also came back because he loves his fans, and it hurts. It hurts him to feel like he let everybody down. And he pointed out his sister in the front row, and he started to get emotional for the first time really emotional for the first time in the promo. And pointed her out in the front row and explained that he loved her, but that may not be good enough. Ace Steel walked out. And he said that this is not what we talked about in the back. I don't know what happened from the time that you and I spoke in the back to the time you walked out to the ring. But this is not the conversation that you and I had a little bit earlier. And he introduced himself as the man who trained CM Punk, so at least he took the time to explain who the fuck he was to people who may not know. And he said that he considers Punk to be his greatest accomplishment. He said they were family. And he did, as a matter of fact, the CM Punk John Cena match of Money in the Bank that was in Chicago at the Allstate Arena many years ago when Punk won the WWF title or WWE title for the first time Colt Cabana and Ace Steel were actually in the front row for the match that night. So a little fun fact here. You won't see Colt Cabana hanging around with CM Punk these days, but he and Ace Steel have been close for many years. Mr. Dynamite says, I thought it was Eddie Kingston for a second. I have no idea what you're referring to. In any event, so that is the introduction to Ace Steel. And he told Punk, it's not about how many times you get knocked down, it's about how many times you get back up. He's trying to motivate this man. This man is so depressed. He's walking out there. He's so sad. He's trying to motivate him. He's trying to tell him who the hell he is. And he slapped Punk across the face, and in the midst of his pep talk here, he dropped an F-bomb. What I imagine was an accidental F-bomb. That's clearly what it was. And I cannot imagine that the TBS executives are going to be very happy about that. Now, there was a report, Meltzer had it in the Observer last week. He said that word had come down from Warner Brothers Discovery that they wanted AEW to tone down the language on the shows. Because every 5 seconds on the AEW show, someone is saying shit. Christian Cage was out there, calling Christian, women, using the word for women's genitalia. I don't want to upset the YouTube gods here. So, yeah, they've been getting away with murder here on these shows now for a while as far as the language goes. And then Sean Ross Sapp at Fightful came out and said, well, that might have been misinterpreted. There was no direct edict from Warner Brothers Discovery about the language. Nobody went to AEW and said, you better tone down the language. But I think it was discussed in the talent meeting last week that they just need to be able, I think the phrase they used on Fightful was, we don't want to fly too close to the sun. So in other words, like, we can be a little edgier, we can use the adult language, but let's not go overboard with it. And then here comes Ace Steel, and he says, fuck, here on the show. What happened to not flying too close to the sun? This fucking guy just flew right into the goddamn thing. He just, he just went right into it. I can't imagine TBS is going to be very thrilled about that. So he handed Punk the contract, and he told Punk to sign it. Punk suddenly snapped out of his funk, and he grabbed the microphone, and he said that he was born with a cord around his neck. He was turning blue. They've been trying to kill him ever since day one, but they haven't found the man to do it yet. And Jon Moxley, you are not that man. And Punk went into the crowd at that point. He was cutting his promo from the crowd. He said Chicago is where the weak are eaten alive. He said Moxley can't break his bones. He can't drink his blood because we are Chicago. This was a very Chicago-centric promo here. And then he signed the contract, and he told Jon Moxley that he would see him on Sunday. So the crowd ate this up, and Punk was, he was all fired up here at the end of this promo, and I know what they were going for. And in front of this crowd, it worked. I mean, of course it was going to work. The guy's out there putting over Chicago, right? He's a Chicago guy. He's out there putting over the city. Of course he's going to get a great reaction. So I know what Tony Khan was trying to do here. But again, I go back to what I said at the beginning of the stream. You didn't need to do this. You did not need to give the match away on TV last week. They're telling the story about Punk. He may have come back too soon. His foot, he couldn't even put any weight on his foot last week. He comes out for a promo tonight. He's walking just fine. He's not limping. He's not down there with crutches. It's like, was it really necessary to do what they did last week? No. You could have gotten to the exact same place without giving the match away 11 days before the pay-per-view. You could have had the greatest face-to-face in the ring tonight between CM Punk and Jon Moxley. 6 days, not 6 days, I guess we're 4 days, four days before the pay-per-view, and just letting them loose on the microphone, right? Two of the very best that they have on the mic in the entire company. Let them go out there and sell you on the pay-per-view. First time ever in an AEW ring. Champion against champion. This is what we waited for CM Punk to come back from, so that we would have this unification. You would have the interim champion against the AEW champion. And they just give it away on TV to get right back to the same point that we're going to get to anyway. I don't think that was the way to go. I don't think that was necessary, but the crowd ate it up. The crowd loved it. Brandon Lamar, brand new channel member. Brandon's going to be going back to check out that Wembley watch-along that we did earlier today. But he's going to wait until we're done here because he wants to listen to the rest of this review. So, Brandon, welcome to the family. Where are we at on the likes? I know we're getting close. Remember, the goal tonight, if you are joining late, 500 likes at least during the live stream here, and we'll do Be the Booker a little bit later on. So, we are getting close. We're almost there. Earlier today, Jim Ross conducted a sit-down interview with Jungle Boy and with Christian Cage to hype up their match on Sunday at All Out. Christian called himself a professional, and he said that on Sunday, Jungle Boy is going to turn into a has-been at the young age of 25. And he hopes that he's prepared for that. Jungle Boy would love to say that he hates Christian, but said it's more complicated than that. The relationship they had felt kind of familiar. And he said he loved Christian. He felt that Christian loved him as well. Christian said, I'm here for one reason and one reason only. I'm here to make money. I'm here to make money. They call it the wrestling business. He's not wrong. He's here to make money. He's here to win big matches. He goes, this is the real me. He's here for selfish reasons, not to be a father figure. And Jungle Boy, he caught wind of that word father, and he, got his dander up. And he said that, here's what I learned from my father. I learned from my father how to be a man. And he said that on Sunday, Christian is not wrestling Jungle Boy, he is wrestling Jack Perry. Jim Ross, I think, is good in these environments, typically doing the whole sit-down interview thing. He's done plenty of them over the years. I think it's a good role for him. He didn't do much here. He kicked things off, and then he just sat there. And he let these two spar back and forth. He wasn't really directing traffic. It wasn't really long enough. There were no follow-up questions from him or anything. He just kind of sat there, and he was like, oh, okay, like he was just observing the two. This is something that has been building for a while. So you can't say that there hasn't been this long-term build to get to this point with Jungle Boy and Christian. It's one of the matches I'm most looking forward to on the pay-per-view on Sunday. I think these two are going to have a kick-ass match. I don't know how or if Luchasaurus fits into any of this. I still say, he was coming out dressed in all black. That's his heel gimmick, his heel entrance, the heel music. I'm still not 100% convinced that he is a babyface or he is on Jungle Boy's side. But we didn't see him. There was no mention of him tonight. This was just Christian and Jungle Boy face-to-face, and they will go one-on-one Sunday at All Out. We had Wardlow and FTR. They got a tune-up match before their trios match at All Out against Silas Young, Ren Jones, and Vic Capri. Those were the opponents tonight. Wardlow took out Jones with a lariat. FTR got some offense in. Jones tagged out to Capri. And Capri got hit with the big rig. And then the powerbomb symphony from Wardlow for the win. I saw Wardlow was interviewed this week. And he was asked a question about winning the TNT Championship back at Double or Nothing. And it was pretty clear in his response. He was not working the interviewer. He is very upset at how things turned out at Double or Nothing. And you know what? He has every right to be. He really does. He really does. MJF, when he eventually comes back, which could be on Sunday, when MJF comes back, he's going to be the biggest thing in wrestling. And he is going to be, again, a huge star for Tony Khan, future world champion in that company. That's what he is building towards with MJF. But now that we're a few months removed from what happened at Double or Nothing, you look back at the effect that it had on Wardlow. Wardlow has not been as popular. He's still over. He was over tonight, but he's missing that little extra something that he had going into that pay-per-view. And that should have been his big moment, his big crowning moment on that show, was beating MJF. And he did beat MJF. And he powerbombed the fucking guy 10 times and sent him away on a stretcher. And then MJF was back on television a few days later, not selling the effects of the injury at all. I mean, powerbomb 10 times, oxygen mask over his fucking eyes, carried out of the building, and then he's back on TV cutting a promo a few days later like nothing ever happened. And where's Wardlow? Remember what they were doing with Wardlow coming out of that show? He was feuding with Mark Sterling and 20 security geeks. Like, they didn't know what to do with this guy. And he's the TNT champion right now, but it still bothers him. He talked about that weekend, and he came to the building not even knowing, he said, if he was going to be wrestling that night. And he held back a little bit. He said, oh, man, I could say other things, but I don't want to get myself angry. But you can see how it really upset him. And it's a shitty situation because he didn't do anything wrong. And that match and that weekend, it really should have been about him. And all of the attention was taken away from him, and it was just firmly on MJF. And obviously it bothered him, and I could see why. He's got every right to be upset about that. So we came back from the break, and we were supposed to have a 4-way match, but Jon Moxley made his way back out, and he wanted the microphone back. He said if CM Punk wants to go out on his shield in front of his hometown fans, then so be it. He says it will be CM Punk against Jon Moxley one more time this Sunday at All Out for the AEW World title. He said he's going to put on a display of brutality and pro wrestling violence that CM Punk has never experienced, and he will show the world the difference between a fake messiah and a real one. I thought that was a great line. I like that line. I tell you, Moxley, in these situations, Moxley is in his element. Like, even if you are not a fan of Moxley's in-ring work, I still feel like you have to acknowledge that he is one of the better promos in the entire company. And really, in wrestling, when it comes to these big go-home episodes to a big match, I mean, he gets all fired up and everything. That's where he's really in the zone. You give him something good to sink his teeth into, and he'll knock it out of the park. And we saw that from him again tonight. Tony Schiavone was in the back with Evil Uno and Preston Vance of the Dark Order. Vance had his left knee wrapped up. He was on crutches, and Uno said that unfortunately, Preston Vance would not be able to make the Rampage match against the Best Friends in the Trios tournament this Friday. Oh, that sounds awfully familiar. That sounds awfully familiar. I wonder where that idea was discussed. Sounds like an idea that was pitched here just a few weeks ago. Uno said that he would be taking Vance's place when Andrade showed up with his assistant, and he offered money to Evil Uno to come work for him. And Uno turned him down. Andrade attacked Uno and smashed Vance's crutch over Uno's back a few times, while Jose kept Preston Vance at bay with a stun gun. Guy had a fucking stun gun turned on. I don't think he actually shocked Vance with it, but he was kind of holding him back so he couldn't help out his friend. And then they walked off. So exactly as predicted. Now Uno is hurt, right? Vance is hurt. Now Uno is injured. Later on in the show, there was another backstage segment with John Silver and Alex Reynolds, and Tony Schiavone was asking them, what are you guys going to do? You've got a match with the Best Friends coming up on Rampage this Friday. In walks Hangman Page. And he says, this was supposed to be about you guys, but given the situation, he offered to step in and take his place. And so sure enough, Hangman Page is going to be on Team Dark Order now when they wrestle Best Friends on Friday. They will beat the Best Friends. And of course, then they will go to the finals at the pay-per-view to take on Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. It's playing out exactly the way we talked about here just a few weeks ago. So we did finally get that 4-way match with 4 of the men in the casino ladder match on Sunday. By the way, I am going to run down the entire card. I'll throw out my predictions. We'll do the all-out rundown here in a second. So we got that coming up as well. But we had Claudio and Wheeler Yuta taking on Andrade and Rush. Bodies were flying all over the place here, as you would expect. This was just a small taste of the insanity that we're in for on Sunday in the ladder match. I mean, you put Rey Fenix in a ladder match and Dante Martin in a ladder match, I just hope they don't die. Fenix powerbombed Dante for a pin attempt that Rush broke up. Dante hit a poison Rana on Fenix. Dante went for the nosedive, but Yuta cut him off, and Fenix hit a dive out to the floor on Rush. Yuta did the seatbelt pinning predicament that he does to Dante, and he got him with it. Pinned Dante Martin. So Wheeler Yuta is not winning on Sunday, but he got a win tonight. Right? We'll give the kid a win here on this show because he's not winning on the pay-per-view. The main event was a trios tournament semifinal match. Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks taking on Will Ospreay and Aussie Open. We are just 6 likes away from 500. So get them on in. Now, yeah, you know what? I'm glad Quizzical brought this up. Before we get into this main event here, there were reports earlier going, and I didn't acknowledge them on social media, but I got tweets about this, and I got emails, and I saw some stuff in the Facebook group about it. And it really pisses me off when I see this being circulated from sources that are very clearly bullshit sources of news. And I don't know how many times I need to say this, but I will continue to say it. I beg of you, I implore you. Not every wrestling news website or newsletter is going to get the news right 100% of the time, right? There is no such thing. But there are reliable sources of information. I think of places like PW Insider. I think of places like Fightful. Yes, I put the Observer on that list as well. There are reliable sources of information out there. Or you can just get your news from yours truly, because I know how to ferret out the bullshit from the actual legitimate news, and then I will bring it to you. I will not bring you fake news. When I give you an update on the Sound Off every weekend and we have our list of top stories to get into, you can rest assured that this is legitimate news. Zero news with the X. Zero news is not legitimate news. Sliced wrestling is not legitimate news. There are certain websites that are not legitimate news, and yet people post from them all the time as if they're some kind of fucking oracle. They're not. They make shit up. Please be mindful of where you get your news from. There was a report from this one bullshit source that Malachi Black asked for his release, and Miro asked for his release, and 4 or 5 different people. And you know how they'll couch it. They'll couch it as, oh, it's unconfirmed. We haven't been able to confirm it, but we'll go and report it anyway. So then they can backtrack when it doesn't happen and say, well, I never said it was confirmed. I said it was unconfirmed. It was bullshit from the word go. You got to know how to sniff it out. So just to put this shit to bed once and for all, no, Malachi Black did not ask for his release. Miro did not ask for his release. There's no wave there's no mass exodus going on in AEW. So stop tweeting it, stop sharing it, stop believing in it. It's all bullshit. So, main event here. Yes, I have to put the torch on there as well. Wade Keller is not just a decent source. Wade Keller is a very legitimate source. Shout out to Wade. I used to do shows with Wade on his website. I used to do a whole bunch of post-SmackDown shows with Wade. It was always very cool to be on with him. Now, of course, I'm doing live streams almost every other day now, so I don't have time to do anything with anybody else. I'm doing my own thing here on the channel now, but shout out to Wade Keller. He also is a legitimate source of news over at the Torch. So again, we had Omega and the Bucks taking on Will Ospreay and Aussie Open. And they opened the match with a quick pace with Omega and Ospreay. They went right to it. They put the two of them in the ring together here right off the bat. And they were laying in hard chops. Don Callis noted on commentary that Omega's shoulder brace was gone, and his shoulder rehab was going extremely well. Aussie Open and the Bucks, they brawled in the ring, but the Bucks managed to low bridge them and send them out to the floor. Ospreay then sent Omega to the floor. Aussie Open ended up sandwiching Kenny Omega. They caught each of the Bucks on dives, and they sandwiched Omega in the middle. And then Ospreay hit a sky twister press to Omega on the floor before they headed into the break. Late in the match, Omega hit dragon suplexes on everybody. Ospreay came in, hit a hook kick before going for the Os cutter. But Omega countered. Ospreay countered the Tiger suplex, hit a Rana to send Omega to the floor. Ospreay went for the Sasuke special, but when he landed on his feet on the floor, Omega completely dodged him. He sidestepped him. Samoa Joe would be very proud. And he grabbed him and hit a Snapdragon on the floor. Aussie Open hit a delayed vertical superplex delayed vertical superplex on Kenny Omega into the ring. Osprey ripped the compression shirt that Omega was wearing again this week. He ripped the shirt off, and it exposed that he had tape on his ribs and tape on his shoulders. It's like this guy he still looks like the walking wounded. They're still selling the angle that he's not 100%. Omega took a beating for a while before making the hot tag to Nick Jackson. Nick Jackson comes in, he runs wild, ends with a moonsault into a tornado DDT on Osprey on the floor. Omega and Osprey, they started exchanging forearms in the ring a moment later. Osprey hit a great-looking Liger bomb, high-angle Liger bomb to Kenny Omega. The Bucks then double-teamed Kyle Fletcher, and they hit a double super kick V-trigger combo with Omega for a close near fall. Nick Jackson went for the Meltzer driver. Osprey cut him off with an Os cutter and hit a 450 splash into the Indie Taker, the Spike Tombstone. They did this to Matt Jackson as he was being held up for it, but they botched it. They just, the timing, they mistimed it, basically. So when Osprey came down, the idea was he'll hit the 450, and on the way down, he'll kind of spike Matt Jackson with his hands. He'll spike him into the mat. But Matt was already on his way down. Will basically just kind of grazed him. He didn't really do anything. So they botched the timing of it, and frankly, Matt kicked out after that. I would not have done that move just because that's not a move that should be kicked out of. I don't think that's a move that should ever be kicked out of. So I wouldn't have even tried doing the spot. The Elite hit a triple super kick to Fletcher a little while later, and then hit Osprey with an Indie Taker. Omega hit Fletcher with a V-trigger and a one-winged angel for the pinfall to send the Elite to the finals of the Trios tournament this Sunday at All Out. They will meet either the Best Friends or the Dark Order. I thought this was just a wild match. We got to see Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay in the ring together tonight, and it did not disappoint. And that's not to take anything away from the Young Bucks or Aussie Open. They're no slouches either. They held up their own. This was a great main event. I thought this was just a fun, wild main event. I enjoyed it. And as I said earlier, now we got to run it back. We got to get Omega and Ospreay one-on-one at the Tokyo Dome. If they're not going to do it in Queens next month, which I would love, Tokyo Dome, January 4th. There's going to be AEW talent on that show. You have to think FTR will be there to defend their IWGP tag belts. But imagine Kenny Omega making his return to the Tokyo Dome for the first time in 4 years, probably? To go one-on-one, co-main with Will Ospreay. Sounds good to me. Rampage on Friday has Hangman Page and the Dark Order taking on Best Friends. It is the final semifinal in the Trios tournament. QT Marshall takes on Ricky Starks, and Sammy Guevara teams up with Ty Mello to take on Ortiz and Ruby Soho. This is a rematch from last week. They did announce one match for Dynamite next Wednesday, which is a Ring of Honor Pure Championship match. It will be Wheeler Yuta defending against Daniel Garcia. You know, they insist on doing these Ring of Honor title matches on AEW television. They have to get something going as far as TV is concerned. You know, it's already been several months. I guess even if it was a streaming show, something. There needs to be a dedicated Ring of Honor show for this type of stuff. And, you know, I don't know how long it's going to take. It's not easy to just, you know, snap your fingers and get a TV show. If it were that easy, Jeff Jarrett would have been able to get something for Global Force. And even he couldn't pull it off. And Jeff Jarrett seems to always land on his feet. Even Double J couldn't pull that off. But he's got to get something going. They need some kind of a legitimate platform for Ring of Honor instead of just putting the title matches on AEW shows. So that's the only match they've announced so far for next Wednesday. We'll see what the fallout is from the pay-per-view this Sunday, which I'm going to talk about here in a moment, but let's go to the poll and see. You know, last week was the worst Dynamite poll that I've ever seen. It was still more thumbs up than thumbs down, but it was sub 50%. I have to think. I thought tonight's show was excellent. I have to think tonight's score is going to be a lot better, but let's see. And it is. 71% thumbs up for the show tonight. So say 1,200 of you so far. 17% thumbs in the middle, and roughly 12% thumbs down. For those who don't know, you can vote in these Twitter polls. At Solomonster is the place to follow me on there. You can go ahead and vote and leave me some feedback. I want to know what you thought of the show tonight. My show, the AEW show, all of it. Predictions for Sunday. Why don't we get into that now? Let's talk about this, and then we'll get into all your super chats. And we got Be the Booker, because I believe you guys, where are we at now? You smashed the like goal. I believe that we are now well over 560 likes, so that's good. So keep the thumbs up going, but we will do Be the Booker later as well. So here's the card for Sunday. We'll just run through this here. They're having a 0-hour pre-show. I don't know why they're using the 0-hour name. Usually that's the name they use for the Ring of Honor pre-shows. Instead of the buy-in, they're calling it the 0-hour pre-show. Eddie Kingston is no longer wrestling Sammy Guevara, but he has got himself a much tougher challenge in Tomohiro Ishii from New Japan Pro Wrestling. This is a rematch from the match they had at the New Japan Capital Collision pay-per-view back in May. Looks like someone forgot to lock the forbidden door. They closed the door, but they forgot to padlock it shut. The door's been kicked open a little bit. I won't tell anybody if you don't. Always good to see Ishii. The Stone Pitbull. Love it. So Eddie is coming off a win over Naomichi Marufuji at the House of Glory show this past weekend. He's getting in the ring with all of his Japanese favorites here. So he's coming off a win over Marufuji, but he lost to Ishii in their first match back in May. So I would have to imagine that this time Eddie Kingston will come out with the win. Also on the pre-show, Hook is going to defend his FTW championship against Angelo Parker of the Jericho Appreciation Society. That's going to be a win for Hook. And Pac is going to defend the All-Atlantic title against Kip Sabian. So that is the current lineup for the pre-show. I'm going with Pac. I don't think he drops the belt to Sabian. So is there... I'm just looking to see if there is because the name I keep seeing people mentioning in the chat is Bobby Fish. And there was an interview that I noticed with Bobby Fish. I don't know where the interview is from, but I just want to see, because there's been a lot of rumors about Bobby Fish as well. So let me just check and see what his status is. Let's take a look here. All right, so here's the update from Fightful. There is a legitimate update. This one's on Bobby Fish. According to Sean Ross Sapp, 15 minutes ago, several in AEW have been told that Bobby Fish's AEW contract is not being renewed. That's very odd to me. Because why would you break up Red Dragon? There must have been some kind of an issue there. Either Fish had an issue. I don't know. There had to be a reason why. It can't just be that, we suddenly don't like the guy. You have Red Dragon as one of the teams to, beef up your tag team division, and then you let Bobby Fish go. Seems to me like maybe he didn't want to be there. I'm sure we'll find out exactly what the reason is. And that's also 1/3 of Adam Cole's crew that's going to be gone. So now we're back down to Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly. It kind of ruins things in a way, because when you eventually get to the part where we have Cole and his crew feuding with the Elite, now they're down one guy. I don't know what... I mean, Roderick Strong is still with NXT. As far as I know, he still has a lot of time left on his contract there. And maybe now with Triple H in charge, he wouldn't want to leave. I don't know. So it's a very weird one. They would just let his contract lapse like that. So let's get to the main card. We have the Casino Ladder Match. We now know the participants. It will be Claudio Castagnoli, Wheeler Yuta, Penta, Rey Fenix, Andrade El Idolo, Rush, Dante Martin, and a mystery Joker entrant. Now, the easy money would be on MJF being the Joker entrant in the ladder match. If he could just enter himself into the match, easiest way for him to go in there and get an instant win, and he's got an AEW championship match in his back pocket whenever he wants it. I'm going to go against the trend here, which would be to say MJF. And I'm going to say that the winner of the ladder match is going to be the Joker, and the Joker is going to be Samoa Joe. I'm going with Samoa Joe as my pick. I think Samoa Joe ends up being the Joker. They already have 2 other Ring of Honor champions in the match. Claudio is the Ring of Honor World Champion. Wheeler Yuta is the Ring of Honor Pure Champion. What's another one, right? What are the Ring of Honor guys doing anyway? They're not doing anything. They're wrestling in AEW because there is no Ring of Honor. Samoa Joe just wrapped up filming on that Twisted Metal TV show. His commitments to the show have been completed, and that frees him up to come back whenever AEW is ready to have him back. Now, I don't see Joe going into this match and doing a bunch of ladder spots. Doesn't have to. He can come into the match late, beat a bunch of people up, climb the ladder once, pull down the contract or the briefcase or the poker chip or whatever it is. I guess it's the poker chip. I think Samoa Joe wins the ladder match, and we get CM Punk against Samoa Joe at Grand Slam in New York City next month. That's my prediction. We have FTR and Wardlow teaming up to take on Jay Lethal and the Motor City Machine Guns. This is again, one of the matches I talked about there being a very thin build for. When I talk about this as a go-home show, this was not the greatest go-home show. It was an excellent show on its own because it had some great matches and there were some great promos, but again, FTR and Wardlow just sort of stuck together because they really didn't have anything else for FTR to do. Motor City Machine Guns are being flown in for this match. Cool. Okay, we'll have FTR and the Machine Guns in the ring together. That's great, but very, very slapped together at the last minute. Very thin build to a lot of the matches on this card. It would have made far more sense to have the Briscoes in this spot and not the Motor City Machine Guns, but we know that obviously that couldn't happen because somebody has it out for the Briscoes and they don't want them. Somebody at Warner Discovery does not want the Briscoes on their television show. Otherwise, it would have made more sense for them to be in this match. Actually, what would have made more sense would be to have booked a match between the Bucks and FTR for all the championships. That would have been the big money tag team match to book, and they decided to go in a different direction because they want the Bucks and Omega to be there at the end when they crown their first ever trios champions. That's what Tony Khan was waiting for. He was waiting for Kenny Omega to come back before he introduced the trios belts, so that took precedent, I guess, over doing this match. But this should not be anything other than a victory for FTR and Wardlow. I am sure it'll be Alex Shelley or Chris Sabin taking the fall, eating the pin in this match to protect Jay Lethal for his eventual rematch with Wardlow for the TNT Championship. A TNT champion that has definitely cooled off since his match with MJF at Double or Nothing. And, you know, if Wardlow was going to powerbomb Satnam Singh at some point, and it seemed like that's sort of the big spot that they were reaching for or building towards. Look, I'm happy that we don't have to see the guy wrestle. I have no interest in seeing Wardlow one-on-one with Satnam Singh. Gee, I mean, my fucking Christ, no, please. We don't need that. But Jay Lethal is going to get a rematch for the TNT title. So why not do that match at Grand Slam in New York? Satnam Singh can be out there, and you can do the spot when the match is over. Have Wardlow powerbomb his big ass when the match is over after he beats Jay Lethal. That way you spare us the actual match and just give us the powerbomb, which is all people are going to want to see. Ricky Starks goes one-on-one with Powerhouse Hobbs. Ricky Starks is he's going to be someone to watch heading into 2023. And Hobbs as well. Both men deserve, I think, really strong singles runs, but this, I think, is going to be a win for Ricky Starks. This, I think, is going to be a statement match for him. The biggest singles match, the biggest match, really, of his entire career. And I think it's going to end up being a win for Ricky Starks. We have Jade Cargill defending her TBS championship and her undefeated streak against Athena. Sucks that Chris Statlander is hurt. Otherwise, she would have been the one in this spot. I have no doubt about that. There really were no other viable options other than Athena, and I think Athena is a fine replacement for Statlander in this match. The one thing I'm not totally sure of is whether or not they do the change here, or if they have the baddies get involved and the baddies end up costing Athena the match, which then leads to a rematch in New York. I just feel like if you put this on the Grand Slam card next month, a smaller card, bigger crowd at Arthur Ashe, it'll get more attention that way. You could even headline one of the hours with it. That could be kind of the co-main event on the show, is Jade putting her title and her undefeated streak up for grabs against Athena, and maybe just wait a few more weeks and have the baddies get involved. So she'll lose, but it'll be because of interference. And then in the rematch, you do a stipulation where the baddies are banned. And it's just straight up one-on-one, Jade and Athena, and then Athena gets the big win there. I think Jade Cargill's going to retain. I think Jade is going to leave with the TBS Championship on Sunday. We have Sting, Darby Allin, and Miro taking on the House of Black. House of Black needs this win. I mean, they lost to the Dark Order in the opening round of this tournament. They need this win more than Sting and Darby and Miro. So I'm going to go with House of Black here. Christian Cage, one-on-one with Jungle Boy. This seems, prime for a Jungle Boy win. Right? It's turned into a deeply personal issue between these two. And I wouldn't mind seeing more than one match between these two. And then in that case, maybe Christian steals a win here, but I feel like Jungle Boy's going over on Sunday. So he gets my vote. With Thunder Rosa out with an injury, we have an interim AEW Women's Champion being crowned. Britt Baker, Toni Storm, Jamie Hayter, and Hikaru Shida. I think Baker and Hayter are going to end up double-crossing each other or costing each other the win in some way. Shida is not winning the belt back. Toni Storm should be the winner of this match. I think Storm was going to win if Thunder Rosa were still around and it was one-on-one. I think you stick to the plan and you put the championship on Toni Storm. When Thunder Rosa comes back in a couple of months, you got Thunderstorm one-on-one to crown an undisputed champion. Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland defend their tag team titles against the Acclaimed. The Acclaimed will be the AEW tag team champions, but not this Sunday. You talk about slapdash, putting this together last second, no build. Here it is. I give you Exhibit A. This was just thrown on there to give these guys something to do. You've got to build. You've got to build to the Acclaim getting that first tag team title win. You can't just throw it out there on Sunday in the middle of this fucking card that has 15 matches on it. Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland should win. They're going to retain their tag team titles. Maybe at Full Gear, it'll be time. But now is not the time to put the belts on the Acclaimed. People are going to want to see it. You got to really build that up as a special moment. I don't think it would come across that way on Sunday. I'm going with Lee and Swerve. Lionheart Chris Jericho battles the American Dragon Bryan Danielson in a battle for the soul of Daniel Garcia, who I think is going to fuck over Danielson, is going to hand Chris Jericho a victory. I think Lionheart goes over in this match. And we have the finals of the tournament to crown the first ever Trios Tag Team Champions. Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks will take on either the Dark Order or the Best Friends. It will be the Dark Order. It will be Hangman Page. And I think Omega and the Bucks are going to walk away as the first ever Trios Tag Team Champions. I think that's what this whole thing has been building towards this entire time. And I think they're going to go over. And then the main event, Jon Moxley defends his newly unified AEW World Championship against Chicago's own CM Punk in his hometown of Chicago. CM Punk is going to win back the AEW World title. Jon Moxley's run as the undisputed champion is going to be brief, but it will end on Sunday. CM Punk is going to win, and I do think we are going to see MJF. I do. I could be wrong. They could be saving him for New York in a few weeks, but I think at the very end of the pay-per-view, whether he just shows up, whether he attacks Punk, gets through security, whatever it is, I think we're going to see MJF. MJF is coming back. It's only a matter of days or weeks before we see him back on television. But it's coming. And it's coming to go after CM Punk, who will be the two-time AEW World Champion. Look at this. Dancing Solomonster on my screen. Look at the dance moves here. The Shanky Shuffle. Mark K with the $40 super chat. Says, hard to book when the booker and owner is nose blasting. You'll see Tony Montana will probably pop up as one of these super chats here on this stream. Thank you, Mark. Doing the Solomonster Shanky Shuffle here on the stream. Anyway, that's the all-out card and my predictions. Let me know what yours are, because now we're heading into your super chats. There's your tribal chief on screen. Acknowledge him. This could be the beginning of the end for Roman Reigns. There's that Solomonster sign. Shout out to Fawaz. That was from Saudi Arabia, by the way. Talk about a money shot right there. I know they're going back to Saudi Arabia. Was it October or November? I think it's November. Hopefully Fawaz will be back in the building. Maybe we'll have another sound-off sighting there. All right, let's go through your super chats here. Get them on in here before it's too late if you want to donate. We have got Sasha Banks on my screen. Dustin Rhodes just subscribed to the channel. The Natural. Welcome to Dustin Rhodes. We got everybody here on this channel. Do Not Pass Go. Thank you for the super chat. Hear me out. Ace Steel grabs the contract for MJF. Now that's a creative little twist on things, but no, that is not going to happen. Groovy Goose in AEW, belts grow on trees. Hey, did you guys see the new House of Glory World Championship? I should have brought the photo up. But if you go on the House of Glory Instagram or Twitter, either or, there are photos of the new world title that has been commissioned, that has been designed, and it is better than any of the WWE belts. Like, it is one of the most beautiful belts that I've seen in a very long time. It truly is a championship belt that you would want to fight for. I was very impressed by that. So, if any belts grow on trees, I wish it was the Hog belt. I'd love to have one of them for myself. Do Not Pass Go says, disregard my first super chat. I see he donated, and then he was so embarrassed by even pitching that idea, he immediately had to take it back. Joseph Brooks, buy or sell on who was the better heel and face, meaning who was the best at being successful at both, Rock or Shawn Michaels? I'm gonna go Rock. Both were great, but I gotta go Rock on them. I thought Rock was the most entertaining. Joseph also says, what peak years of Kurt Angle and Bret Hart would be the ultimate dream match? 1994 Bret Hart and 2002 Kurt Angle. Von Tell with the 5 spot. What's worse, Orton's booking after Evolution split or Wardlow's booking after the MJF split? I don't even remember who Orton feuded with after Triple H killed him at that pay-per-view after SummerSlam. Like fall of 04 into the beginning of 05. Like, what the hell was he even doing? I know he had a rematch with Triple H at the Royal Rumble. I don't even remember what Orton was doing. I would probably go Wardlow, though. Whatever Orton was doing, I'm sure he was still being featured in a pretty prime spot on TV. Wardlow has just been fucking, I don't know, lost to the darkness for the most part. Anti-M Bishop 07, greetings Solomonster. Good show last Sunday at Hog. Can't wait for September 24th. Dynamite was a stellar production. Hashtag Second City Saints for life. Oh, yes. Orton. Okay, so Orton did go. Did he know what he went heel again in late 04? Was it late 04? I thought he went heel again in early 05 before the WrestleMania match with The Undertaker. No, I think he feuded with I think it was him and Bob Orton feuding with Undertaker in late 05. Not late 04. Food Hive says this show was awesome. Spaghetti with the $4.99. If it is Osprey, look at this. Chungus Khan is blocking my super chat. Hey, Chungus Khan, thank you for the sub. As Chris Jericho beats his chest. Spaghetti says, if it's Osprey versus Omega at Wrestle Kingdom, who should get the win, and should it be for the U.S. Championship? It should be for the U.S. title, and I think Osprey should get the win. But Kenny Omega is one of the biggest stars in all of AEW. Would Tony Khan be willing to let him lose? That's the question. If that's not an issue, and you can book whoever you want to win or lose, then I would book Osprey to win. It'd be the biggest win of his life. I mean, I know he won the IWGP, so maybe not the biggest win, but it would be one of the biggest wins of his career. Lakers Pats, Scissor Me Daddy Solo, and this title is the TBS title. This TBS title is a joke. Tuxedo T. Servo, thank you for the $5. Frank Aquilino, thanks for the hard work. I say bring in Morrow to announce. Make a creative team with JR, Regal, and Trish Stratus to help out Tony Khan. Trish Stratus is very happy with her cameos in WWE. Spicy Dried Chicken. Back-to-back main events for Will Ospreay and the United Empire on Dynamite tonight. Great main event match. Yeah, I mean, the more I think about the idea of doing that at Wrestle Kingdom, Ospreay can't lose that match. If Omega's coming in for a one-shot like that, Ospreay, I mean, he is the guy. He is the gaijin now that they are really building. Who effectively took the place of Kenny Omega. And you can't have Will go in there and lose to him, I don't think. Bernard Frederick with the $10. Thank you for providing this platform for diehard wrestling geeks like me. You can rest assured that I will do my part, and like every stream you broadcast, you have my 100% support. Do what you do. Hey, Bernard, that's awesome, man. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. King Bling Blah, after squash match, still no desire to see Moxley and Punk. Fallout X1. If Sasha Banks has any intention of going to AEW, it will happen this Sunday at All Out. If not, she is probably going back to WWE. Sasha Banks is going back to WWE. She is not coming to AEW. That I am confident to say. Temjin Zephyr, I have a feeling that we will get Omega versus Osprey at Arthur Ashe and have a rematch at Wrestle Kingdom in January. What are your thoughts? Well, that might make things a little bit easier, actually. If you do the match at Arthur Ashe and Omega wins, well, then it's not a big deal if he goes in there and loses at the Tokyo Dome. So that could work. I mean, look, you want to give me an extra Omega Osprey match, I'm all for it. Nino, I love the way Mox against Punk is building to the pay-per-view. King Bling Blah. Does Mox squash Punk again to solidify? Can you imagine? Can you even fucking imagine if they start the match and he beats him again in 3 minutes? The balls on Tony Khan. That is not going to happen. Frank Aquilino, is criminal the way that Wardlow and Hangman have been booked the last 3 months. Yeah, Hangman's another one, but at least Hangman had his run with the championship. You know, now he's lost it and he's being, he was phased down. Wardlow is the one who really, he's got a legitimate beef, I think. Brian Becerra with the $30 Bully the Clown super chat from earlier. Thank you, Bryant. Spicy Dried Chicken. Whoever the Elite faces at the finals, I'm not watching it. No disrespect to best friends in the Dark Order. It's just another repetitive matchup. They don't work for me, bro. That don't work for me, brother. Not a fan of the Elite, I see. Rodimus Prime with the $10 super chat. Happy Labor Day, Solomonster. Busy weekend in wrestling from Worlds Collide to All Out. Let's go. Happy Labor Day to you as well, Rodimus. I hope you are going to enjoy the day off on Monday. Nobody should be working on Monday. I'll be working, but nobody should be working on Monday. Shinakuma, thank you for the $5 super chat. Anti-M Bishop with the $15. Shows not AEW/WWE this weekend include AAW tomorrow, Freelance Wrestling, GCW Chicago Weekend, the wrestling showcase featuring Jacob Fatu, and Prestige/West Coast Pro. Indie fans represent. A lot of wrestling going on this weekend. It's not hard to find. It's just a matter of what you want to watch. Rizzo with $10 super chat. I wonder if how things ended with Morrissey and Carmella are why he is not back in WWE. I know time heals all wounds, but if I remember correctly, things really ended badly with those two. I'm not aware of the nature of the breakup. I just know they broke up. So maybe that played a role in it. I mean, what's he gonna do? He's gonna be afraid of Corey Graves. Is that why he didn't sign with WWE? He didn't want to get beat up by Corey. I'm sorry, I couldn't get through that sentence. Little Alien Boy with the $9.99. Beamed himself back into the stream. I haven't heard from Little Alien Boy in a while. Knowing we get Yuta and Garcia too for the pure title, I think the Blackpool Combat Club is a good shot. Garcia left DBDH, flipping off and no handshake. This match should start with a clean shake to well, this is some kind of alien language that he is speaking in here. I have to try to decode this. But Little Alien Boy, thank you for the super chat. Christopher Smith with the $9.99. I hoping for either Jamie Hayter or Toni Storm for Women's Champion. They could go either way with them, but having Hayter win does set up a feud with Britt Baker in the future. Hayter has been so good. Spicy Dried Chicken, whispering Stokely is secretly working with MJF. Possible. Dr. Dakota Scorpio, Britt Baker wins, LOL. Anyone but Britt to win on Sunday. Steven Santos with the $10 super chat. Does it make sense for AEW to do a brand split with such a bloated roster? It seems reasonable to negate some of the gripes of those who are not getting TV time. I have no interest in seeing a brand split in AEW. I can see why people would think it makes sense. I think there are ways that you can address the issue without doing a formal brand split. I do not want to see a brand split. Andrew Carroll, more of CM Punk and less of crap like Pac, trying to balance on the turnbuckle for half a minute before jumping backwards without looking behind him. Well, it's pretty straight to the point. Thank you, Andrew. He did take way too long last week on that spot. EJ Slemp was at the show tonight, had a blast. I don't know how it came across on TV, but Punk got some boos here in Chicago. I could not believe it. You know, I did not notice that, actually. I mean, there were parts of the promo where some of the things he was saying, the fans were, because he was being very down and depressed. But once it picked up, I didn't get the sense there were boos at all. So that is surprising. Spicy Dried Chicken. I highly doubt that this will ever happen, but can you imagine Colt Cabana, of all people, costing CM Punk the world title at All Out or a future pay-per-view match? No. I cannot believe it. To answer your question, no, I cannot believe it. And Colt Cabana is not going to have anything to do with the world title picture in this company or anything like that. They are not going to work together. They are not going to have anything to do with each other. I know people would see it and go, oh my God, and they would lose their minds, but it's not going to happen. David Hart with the 1999. This just came out on Twitter, but Sean Ross Sapp, according to him, several people in yes, I just read that a little while ago. He said several people in AEW have been told that Bobby Fish's contract is not being renewed. Crazy if it's true, so much for the UE and Elite story. Yeah, I mean, Bobby Fish on his own means nothing to AEW. Before Kyle O'Reilly signed, Bobby Fish was just floundering doing jobs in AEW. Bobby Fish on his own is not someone that Tony Khan is going to prioritize. He is not somebody that is going to make a lick of difference on their roster. Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly together, though, are, a big tag team on the roster for them to have. And again, there is this Undisputed Elite story, with the other Elite members. Now they're going to be down one person. So how is that going to affect things? Rizzo. Meltzer does the same thing with plans change crap. I've learned I'll believe it when I see it, Solo. And many times when Meltzer says plans change, guess what? Plans did change. Because Vince McMahon would change his fucking mind all the time. Be very interesting to see if, now that Vince McMahon is out of the picture, if Meltzer uses the plans change line as much anymore. But the reality is, when he uses that line, most of the time, it's because plans do fucking change. I don't blame Meltzer for that. Iceman38, $5 super chat. Hey, Solomonster, everybody says that Tony Khan listens to the fans, so why is he not booking the talent better and telling better stories? I feel bad for the talent. Because he's overstretching himself. He's got a bloated, huge roster, and he's the only person who's really pulling the strings creatively and coming up with these stories, and he's a one-man show. I mean, I know he has other people now who are behind the scenes working and helping in a talent relations capacity, but in many ways, he's a one-man operation, and now you add Ring of Honor to that. So he's stretching himself very thin, and he's got a roster with so many people that it's just hard for him to find places to put them all. This was inevitably going to become an issue. You can address it by doing a better job, I think, of rotating certain people out. He's trying to do that, but you're going to have people who are very frustrated who are not getting television time. It was inevitable that this was going to happen. You can't tell me that people like Miro and Malachi Black are super happy about their position right now, or even Andrade, because they're just not being featured as much as I'm sure they want to be featured. Over time, that's going to breed a lot of discontent, and he has to be prepared to deal with that. Dr. Dakota Scorpio, one day Ishii will be the IWPG heavyweight champion. I agree. I don't think he will be the IWGP champion, but I believe that he will be the IWPG champion. Whatever the fuck that is. I have no idea what that is. I agree. But no, he will not be the IWGP champion. Rizzo, didn't Fish just give an interview saying he was unhappy, or am I thinking of someone else? Now, you were thinking of the same interview I referred to earlier. He was talking about it was something about being unhappy, I think, with actually what I was just talking about, I think. I didn't read the full interview, but no, you're thinking of the same thing that I was. Bob the Builder, Bobby Fish is leaving AEW per Sean Ross Sapp. Iceman says Tony Khan is the new Vince McMahon, lazy booking. Mark K with that $40 drop. Hard to book when the booker is nose blasting. Dick the Cock Johnson, Kyle O'Reilly is going to be TNT champion within 6 months. Kyle's great. TNT title would be right at that level that I would expect him to be at. HBKC83, Nimmo with the catch of the year. Let's go Mets. I heard about that. I didn't see it. I didn't fucking see it, but I heard he made this amazing catch. I don't even know if they won the game. I was so wrapped up in this AEW stuff. I have to go watch it after. I have to go see this amazing play that I kept hearing about. Groovy Goose, rate this dream match out of 10. Bret Hart versus Edge. I would go maybe 7. Christopher Smith, I feel like NXT Worlds Collide is setting up for some potential call-ups. Braun Breaker, Mandy Rose come to mind. Yeah, I don't see Braun Breaker losing to Tyler Bate, though. Mandy I could see losing. I don't think Braun loses. Bob the Builder, the moment Osprey becomes a free agent, Tony Khan and WWE are going to be gunning for him. Also, Jay White. Mets beat the Dodgers 2-1. That's all I needed to hear. That makes my night. Joshua Edwards, did you see the Clash stage construction photos? I saw one photo. I saw a video, I guess like a video wall that they're constructing in the shape of a castle. It looked pretty cool. It was very limited. Like it wasn't really showing much, but I know that it was being done in the shape of a castle, so that was pretty cool. Epsilon Sama. Sean Ross Sapp said that Bobby Fish is not re-signing with AEW. No Cap, one of our channel members, says Tony Khan, why do you think Tony Khan books his champions so poorly, a la Adam Page, Thunder Rosa? You can throw Wardlow in there as TNT champion. Yeah, Thunder Rosa had a largely very uneventful, terrible run as the women's champion. And I don't attribute that to Rosa. It was just the way that she was booked. She had a great match with Serena Deeb at Double or Nothing. But she had, I mean, you compare it to like a Britt Baker, and she had a terrible run as the champion, and she just wasn't booked as a strong champion. She didn't have a lot of strong challengers. She wasn't featured all that much. Wardlow, we've talked about his booking since Double or Nothing. You know, people can pay, they rag about Adam Page. I don't know. I don't look at the Hangman run as negatively as some people do. But look, there have definitely been, I mean, look at Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland. Now, they haven't had the titles for very long, but I can't sit here and tell you they've had a very eventful run either so far. So it's definitely been a weakness of the booking in AEW when it comes to the champions. Look at Jade Cargill. I mean, they've been booking her very strong, and then nobody has been able to beat her, but it just feels like a totally forgettable, you know, run. It should be like a bigger deal, the fact that this woman is approaching 50-0 soon and has been so dominant. She's been the most dominant champion in the entire company, and you know, even that stuff with her and the baddies and some of the stuff they've been doing, it's like it's just not good. The people who don't want to admit that there are booking issues in AEW are just fooling themselves. I mean, you have to look at things objectively, even if you're an AEW fan, and say the booking has not been great. The booking has not been, especially with champions, has not been as strong as it should be. We've got Rizzo with the $10 super chat. Joe James in the chat refreshed my memory, but there was an argument between Morrissey and Carmella, and the Usos had to get involved. Okay, see, I didn't know about that. So there could be personal reasons why he would not go back to WWE. I didn't know about the Usos having to get involved. That's the first I'm hearing of it. Emiliana with the $9.99 super chat. Missed most of the stream tonight. Anyway, back to say that I'm so glad we get to see Hangman wrestle on Friday, even if I'm going to be working during Rampage. It's about time. Missed him in the ring. Yeah, I might throw it to you guys as far as whether or not we cover Rampage this week. I know it's live, but I was kind of thinking we do a and SmackDown is actually taped this week, but they loaded it up. There's a bunch of stuff on SmackDown that they listed in the preview. I was kind of thinking maybe we would do SmackDown and then Clash at the Castle predictions on Friday night, maybe skip Rampage, but I might leave that up to you guys. Let you guys kind of informally vote and let me know what you want me to do. If we do SmackDown, we can go live at 10:15 instead of 11:15 on Friday. Samoan Fan 101, Orton feuded with Flair. He lost the match where he could not challenge Triple H while he was the champion, then was part of the Control of Raw Survivor Series match. Okay, so that would have been late 04. Okay, now you've refreshed my memory. The Yatagaratsu $5 super chat. Solo slice. Yeah, somebody timed 30 seconds on that Pac spot. That was ridiculously contrived. That was way too long. I agree. Pac is great, but that spot was far too long. Thomas, I'm excited with what we are getting this weekend. I just hope they deliver. Dr. Dakota Scorpio, spelling error. My bad, but one day, though. It's all good. It's all good. We've got Boomerang. That Nimmo catch was reminiscent of the Endy catch. That Mets and Dodgers NLCS is going to be live. It better be. The Braves still worry me. I'm not going to lie. The Braves still worry me. Drew John, Andy Chavez was at the Old Timers game the other day. It was so weird. He's not even that old. He looked exactly the same as I remember him. I'm like, why is this guy in an Old Timers game? They should rename it. See, I would be offended if I were in that game. I think that's why David Wright turned down the invitation. He's not retired long enough, I think, to be considered an old timer. But they had an Old Timers game at Citi Field the other day. I think they should call it like the, I don't know, something with the word classic, maybe. Some of these guys aren't that old. It's weird to call them old timers. Dakota Scorpio. I'd rather watch a taped SmackDown than a Rampage. Drew Johnson, thank you for the 5. Thank you. You are the man. You are the man, Drew. Ricky Edmonds, so the two people who were considered the next Steve Austin were CM Punk and Dean Ambrose. Yeah, and that was always unfair. They said that about Moxley when he was the world champion in 2016, before he had that horrible interview with Austin. It was unfair. I mean, you're putting a real handicap on those guys by saying that you're going to be the next. What is this? How many super chats are there where I'm dancing, by the way? That's the second one I've seen tonight. Yeah, it was very unfair. Nobody can fill the shoes of a Steve Austin or a Rock. So it's very unfair to say so-and-so is going to be the next Steve Austin. So-and-so is going to be the next, Rock or John Cena or whatever. It's unfair to that person. Food Hive. Sound Off Gamers should be back soon. I just got to find some time to sit down and start playing again. Thomas, I don't mind skipping Rampage and doing the predictions. I think that's what I might do. Samoan fan, that team of Orton, Benoit, Jericho, and Maven, though. Yeah, that was Survivor Series 04. EJ Slemp dropping a $4.99. The team you should be worried about the most are the Cardinals, with Goldschmidt, Arenado, and it being Albert's last season. They're a team of destiny. Well, that team of destiny is going to die. I'm not worried about the Cardinals. I'm worried about the Dodgers, and I'm worried about the frickin' Braves. Matt View 72 getting Rocky 3 vibes from Punk and Mox's story. I mean, I guess maybe that's what they're going for. Is the Cowabunga collection out yet? I know it was supposed to come out at some point later this year. Was it like 20 games in one? I don't think it's out yet. I know the other game is out. I already forgot the name of it. When it came out a couple months ago in June, I picked it up. The other Ninja Turtle game, but I didn't think the Cowabunga collection was out yet. Antonius, no. The Malachi Black rumors, no. It's bullshit. Drew Johnson, HBK and Drew versus Solomonster and Brett. Screams pay-per-view. Oh, so it came out yesterday. Look at this. I didn't even know. I assume it must be on Steam, I hope, for PC. So how is it? Anybody who has been playing it, let me know how it is. I had no idea that it came. Shredder's Revenge. That's what I was thinking of. Shredder's Revenge I played. It was a nice throwback. I had no idea the Cowabunga collection dropped yesterday. Man, I have been in my wrestling bubble all week. Although one of you emailed me. I forgot who it was. Somebody emailed me a few days ago and told me that I needed to watch this movie. It's a horror movie on YouTube. It's like a low budget, maybe fan made. I don't know. Horror movie called The Terrifier with a killer clown. Arthur the Clown, or Art the Clown. Art the Clown is the killer. And I had never heard of this before. So I actually found some time and I watched it. It's a sick movie. I will say, though, the clown in this movie is one of the creepiest fucking characters I've ever seen. I mean, for a low-budget movie like that, that was impressive. That was impressive. That clown is fucking freaky. You think that, the movie It is freaky. You got to see this Art the Clown. Apparently, they're making a sequel. Am I going to see Halloween Ends? Of course. It's coming out on Peacock at the same time it's hitting the movie theater, October 14th. Of course I'll see it. I'll probably be streaming that night, but I'll watch it that weekend. Let's get to more of your Super Chats here, and then we're going to do Be the Booker. We have not done Be the Booker yet. For those you didn't miss it, if you're tuning in late, don't worry, you haven't missed it yet. Food Hive says, everyone has their vices. Mine is... What? I thought you were talking about food. It's like, what kind of dish is that? I've never heard of that dish before. Well, I guess we know what Food Hive is eating. Anyway, Spicy Dried Chicken Big Swole was right about AEW structure. I'm like Jim Hopper from Stranger Things to Joyce. You were right this whole time. Samoan fans, seriously though, why was Maven there? They were trying to push Maven. They thought Maven was going to be a big star. I thought Maven had the potential to be a big star. And he just fizzled out. Yeah, we know what Food Hive we know what Food Hive is eating now. He's eating Smurfette. Food Hive also says Kurt Angle versus Booker T is the funniest storyline. Tripod. Arsenal clapped up Aston Villa today. 5 wins out of 5, and next up Manchester United. Don Juan. I'm officially a part-timer ever since beating the love of my life, Fire Panda, at the Last Word Super Chat thing. I've been unstoppable. Now there's no competition. I'll be back once I see competition. Thank you, Don Juan. Robert Aguirre. I'm not as excited for All Out as I was last year. Yeah, I mean, come on. You're comparing... You remember all the buzz around AEW at the time with all the debuts and stuff. I mean, you had to know that things were going to die down and kind of, get normal again after that. They weren't going to be able to be debuting new people every week. Eventually, it was going to have to calm down. That was a very unique period for AEW last year. There was no way they were going to be able to sustain that. Food Hive says, wait a minute, it took you 2 years to watch Joker, but you watch a YouTube movie about Art the Clown. That's right. That's right. You got to catch me at the right time. It's all about catching me at the right time. Most people don't. Let me just go back here because there was a member chat I want to make sure. And for those asking, by the way, the member chats, in what I'm reading the super chats from, no, the member chats don't pop up there. So that's why I don't always have a chance to read them. I thought there was one that I missed. Anyway, Del Fuego, if I missed it, I'm sorry. But yeah, they don't pop up here on this screen for me. Winter's Paw with the $5. 3 of the last 5 Monday Night Raws drew over 2 million viewers. All those shows heavily featured the women, including the women's main event. Cornette has got to be fuming. Yeah, I mean, they're gonna get shellacked by football, which I think starts up actually next week. But so far, so far so good. As far as the numbers for Triple H's era of Monday Night Raw, but Once Monday Night Football kicks in, we'll see how much audience they lose. Did I like Nope? I haven't seen the new Jordan Peele movie yet. No, I haven't seen it. Is it streaming yet? When it's streaming, let me know. I'll try to fit that in. Darth Panic says the watch along was a lot of fun. I'm glad you enjoyed that. I had a lot of fun. We hung out for about an hour earlier today in the middle of the day, just chatting with the channel members. Although anybody can go back and watch the SummerSlam '92 main event watch along. So I'm glad you enjoyed it, Darth. All right. Robert. $2 super chat. Have you seen the trailer for Halloween 60 on YouTube? What is that? What is Halloween 60? I saw the before I get to be the booker, I saw the trailer that dropped today. If you guys missed it, the trailer dropped today for the new Winnie the Pooh horror movie, Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey. And it looks pretty sick. Yeah, for those wondering, how is it possible? How is it possible that they can do this to Winnie the Pooh and Eeyore and all these lovable children's characters? Well, because copyright ran out on those characters. You'll notice that Tigger is not in the movie because the copyright on him does not expire until next year. Which begs the question, why didn't they just wait the extra year so they could have him in the movie as well? I don't know the answer to that, but go find that trailer if you're into all the horror type stuff. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Yeah, the characters are now in the public domain, so people can go crazy now with the characters. Dr. Dakota Scorpio, United Empire attacked the Elite after the show. Winter's Paw, do you not have the MLB app? No, I don't. Drew Johnson, watch Frozen horror film. 3 people stuck on a ski lift. So awesome. I thought you were talking about Frozen, the Disney movie. I thought they made a horror movie out of that. I was going to say, how would Disney allow that? I completely misunderstood your super chat. Robert says it is a parody of Halloween 2018. Watch it. Oh, okay. I had never heard of that before. I might have to check that out. Did I ever see Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter is Dead? Yes, that's with Christina Applegate. Saw that many years ago. Christina Applegate. All right. Let's go be the booker.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to be the booker.
All right. We met our goal tonight. You know what that means. That means that we are going to be the booker here tonight. We got a lot of people in here. So I want to book some good matches here. I don't want to be embarrassed. I want this to go well. I don't want these 1,400 people to think that I'm a terrible booker here. We begin with the Animal, Batista, who I believe is going to probably be going into the WWE Hall of Fame next year. They wanted to put him in the Hall of Fame a few years ago. He wanted to wait until actual people were allowed into the building. I happen to be one of those people who don't think that fans should be allowed into the building, but that's me. So let's see who Batista is going to be stepping into the ring with. Former World Heavyweight Champion. Filming Dune 2 at the moment. Batista, one-on-one with the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. It's a good match. Although this version of Shawn Michaels... Hey, look, it's Jim Johnston on the left. The guitar player. The one and only. Jim Johnston. I think Triple H should make a play to bring Jim Johnston back to WWE. What do you guys think? All you guys in the chat, do you agree with me? Triple H is bringing back all of his children from NXT. He should bring back Jim Johnston. Because the music in WWE, some of this new generic music absolutely fucking sucks. We need Jim Johnston back. But this version of Shawn Michaels is the pilled up, injured version of Shawn Michaels. Even the pilled up, injured version of Shawn Michaels, though, could still put on a hell of a match. So let's move on to the women. See what we can do here. Fire Kevin Dunn. Let's replace Kevin Dunn with Jim Johnston. I think that would be a worthy trade. What do you think? Worthy trade-off. We begin with the NXT UK Women's Champion, Meiko Satomura, who is going to be defending her championship unification at Worlds Collide this Sunday. One of the best in the world is Meiko Satomura. I remember when I saw Meiko Satomura for the first time on WCW Monday Nitro back in the day. Let's see who Meiko is going to be stepping into the ring with here. This ought to be good. Meiko one-on-one with, oh my God. Oh my God. Meiko and Lana. I know Meiko is great, but she ain't no miracle worker. Poor Meiko. I feel I have disrespected her. Meiko and Lana. Ugh. Tag team time. We begin with Billy and Chuck, with Rico as their manager. The Billy and Chuck wedding segment on SmackDown, one of the all-time great segments in SmackDown history. So we got Billy and Chuck. Hey, now that I look at this picture here, Billy and Chuck in this image, this looks like Billy's kids now. Looks like Austin and Colton Gunn, only with actual muscles. Right? Kind of looks a little like Billy and Austin and Colton, though. All right, let's see who it's going to be. It's going to be Billy and Chuck taking on David Hart Smith and Tyson Kidd. I'm trying to book matches people are going to pay to want to come watch. People are going to pay to see. That's not a match that anybody is going to pay to see. We went 1 for 3. I have let you down. Once I landed on Lana in the women's match, it just was all downhill from there. All downhill. Man. All right, Food Hive is clarifying his earlier super chat, which I legitimately just thought he was telling me that's what he likes. He says the Gutter Skanks line is from when Kurt Angle had lust in his eyes for Booker T's wife Charmel and said that he wanted to have weird bestiality sex with her. That I remember. I don't remember the Gutter Skanks line. I just thought Food Hive was into Gutter Skanks. I said, hey, to each their own. I mean, I don't know why you would insult Smurfette in that way, but hey. You do you. Uffman Entertainment Prudential Center in Jersey to host Full Gear in November. Yeah, welcome to 2 hours ago. Although I guess now we have confirmation of the actual venue. So there you go. Drew Johnson, boom, HBK. Actually, he said KBK. You misspelled your idol's name in your super chat. Food Hive says Billy and Chuck's greatest theme song, a Billy and Chuck greatest theme song ever. It's a pretty catchy tune. Dr. Dakota Scorpio, below 500 to end August. Be the Booker, tough month. Yeah, we definitely are not making the playoffs with this batting average for Be the Booker. We are going to miss the playoffs if we don't improve some of these matches that we're booking here in these segments. Tripod says, you buzzed Lana in my office now. All right, Mr. Belding, calm down. I didn't say I didn't like looking at Lana. I just said I don't have any interest in seeing Lana in the ring. Big difference. Bearwolf says Dodgers are winning the whole thing. They might. They have a great team. It's not going to be easy. They're the team that worries me the most. Do I think there's a chance that Bobby Fish returns to WWE? For what? I mean, he could be a trainer. He could be a trainer or a coach, maybe at the PC. Beyond that, I mean, what's he going to do? Mets are better than the Yankees, according to Mays the Great. Absolutely. Do I like the Jets or the Giants? I honestly don't care. Robert dropping a super chat. I sent the video of Halloween 60 on Instagram. Probably better to email it, but I'll check it out. Rizzo with the $5 super chat. Things went poorly with Lana. I think it might be time to give a break to Be the Booker. Matt View 72. Thoughts on having several like goats for Be the Booker? Example, 400 likes is a regular match, 500 is ladder, 600. Yeah, maybe. Kind of change it up and say that if we get to a certain number of likes, you know, we can pretend that there's a certain stipulation attached to the matches. I could just do that randomly anyway. I was going to do that the other night on Friday. I said how every match that I book tonight and Be the Booker will be a ladder match. That'll make it funnier if we land on fucking, you know, Paul Heyman against Vince Russo or something. But we fell just short of the goal, so we didn't do it on Friday. Tripod says, hey, what is going on here? Oh, Mr. Belding. Mr. Belding was missing. They had like a Saved by the Bell reunion not too long ago, and Mr. Belding I don't think he was part of it. Darth Panic, what happened to Harry Smith? Wasn't he supposed to sign with WWE a while back? He did sign. He was supposed to debut, in July of last year when they brought the shows back in front of live audiences. And they just changed their mind. They didn't use him, and then they released him. So they signed him in April of last year. They had him under contract for months, and then they never used him, and they got rid of him. I don't know who he signed with now. I have no idea what company he actually has a contract with. Maybe none. I don't know. Did I see Jesse Spano in Showgirls? Yes, I did. Uffman, yeah, he was in a dark match, but they never used him on TV. And they just fired him. So Bearwolf says he's back in the NWA teaming with Douglas Williams. So there you go. He's back in the NWA. Doesn't mean he has a contract with them, though. You know, Sam Shaw was back in the NWA a few months ago. Now Dexter Lumis is back on WWE television, so I don't know what his contract status is. Do I watch Adventure Time? I don't know what that is. Thoughts on the Conan and Zeb Coulter heat? I wasn't aware that there was heat between the two of them. I don't know what the nature of the heat is. Don't really care. How did I like Hog at Terminal 5? Better than Amazura. You know, the NYC Arena is our home. That's home base. You know, Terminal 5 was nice in that you can get more people in there. So I think, you know, it's probably nice for the off big show, but, you know, Amazura is home. Spicy Dried Chicken, singing Disco Fever. Here's La Parka, down goes Disco. Favorite super chat. Mario Lopez does not age. He really doesn't. He really doesn't. He looks virtually the same. It's pretty amazing. Do I watch House of the Dragon? No. Well, I didn't watch Game of Thrones, so I wouldn't be watching House of the Dragon. All right, one last look at the poll. 71% of you have given Dynamite Tonight, the go-home show, a thumbs up. 17% thumbs in the middle, and 12% thumbs down. So I thank you for chiming in on the poll. Please go ahead and vote at Solomonster. And do not forget, there is a watch-along that you can go and check out. You have some free time tomorrow. You can watch along with the rest of us, the main event from SummerSlam 92. It has been 30 years since that match. In case you didn't feel old, now you do. So we had a lot of fun with that earlier, and I think what I'm probably going to do is I'm leaning towards SmackDown only. SmackDown and Clash at the Castle predictions on Friday night. I'll let you know about Rampage, but we will be live here, at least for SmackDown for sure, on Friday night. And then we have a very big weekend coming up. We have Clash at the Castle at 1 o'clock Eastern on Saturday. Figure that ends around 4 probably, and I'll be going live as soon as the show is over, so catch me before you eat dinner that night. And then Sunday will be episode 772 of the podcast. Sunday night will be the All Out review. I will watch the NXT Worlds Collide show. I don't think I'm going to actually have time to review it, certainly not on Sunday. But that's a lot of wrestling coming up this weekend. Holy shit, that's a lot of wrestling. I'm sure it's going to be mostly great, but fuck. There is a limit, I feel like, to how much wrestling we should be watching in a given weekend. Food Hive is going to get the last word on the Super Chats here. No cheese, brother. No cheese. I don't know where I am, brother. Who am I, brother? Who am I, brother? Brother. Brother. Going to hell. Well, if I do, I guess I'll see him there. All right, I'll see you guys on Friday night. Thank you for all the love tonight. I appreciate it.